it was Frank, wasn't it?
He had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, sure he did. I knew there was more between y'all than just some backdoor romance. He probably pimped you out to court in the first place. Hey, we going to the police.
No.
Come on.
No.
Yeah, why don't you scream, huh?
How every single day you make me and my children late for our lives with this your stupid parking. Psyche parking, and today you have the audacity to make me out to be the villain. Move this car now, Kafi Mareki. Move this car now.
You want to see a mad person, Abby? Don't worry, you'll find the same person that will come and move this car. You'll find the same person that will come and
shake ya, move this car.
We're adding new titles every day to our awesome collection of blockbuster movies. Download the app and subscribe. This isn't just a streaming channel. This is a bold new world of entertainment. Arise Play. Beyond streaming.
Put the phone down. Put the phone down. Easy.
So it was Frank, wasn't it?
He had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, sure he did. I knew there was more between y'all than just some backdoor romance. He probably pimped you out to court in the first place. Hey, we going to the police.
No.
Come on.
No.
Yeah, why don't you scream, huh?
How every single day you make me and my children late for our lives with this your stupid parking. Psyche parking, and today you have the audacity to make me out to be the villain. Move this car now, Kafi Mareki. Move this car now.
You want to see a mad person, Abby? Don't worry, you'll find the same person that will come and move this car. You'll find the same person that will come and move.
Shake ya, move this car.
We're adding new titles every day to our awesome collection of blockbuster movies. Download the app and subscribe. This isn't just a streaming channel. This is a bold new world of entertainment. Arise Play. Beyond streaming.
Welcome to This Week, 60 minutes of analytical review of the big stories, topical issues, and all the controversies around the world. I'm Somna Sambo, and now to the headlines. Governors and National Assembly members on warpath over passage of direct primaries as only form of party primaries in electoral amendment bill. The lobby is now on for President Buhari to withdraw his assent. Plus, candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Andy Uba, rejects the result of the November 6 Anambra governorship election. Plans to go to court over fraud allegations. And who killed Tordue Salem, a Nigerian journalist covering the National Assembly? The police claims he was knocked down by a hit-and-run vehicle, just as the Nigeria Union of Journalists rejects the claim and demands an independent investigation. The quest to strengthen Nigeria's democratic institutions through sound electoral laws is turning into a battle between the National Assembly and state governors. The National Assembly, in the new Electoral Act Amendment Bill passed by both chambers and set for transmission to President Muhammadu Buhari for assent, has approved direct primaries for party primaries. The Progressive Governors Forum, which is the platform of all governors elected under the governing All Progressives Congress, has launched a fresh attack against members of the Senate and House of Representatives, labeling them products of the same indirect primary. that they now want jettisoned. Political analysts say many governors are angry about the new provision because the direct mode of primaries passed by the National Assembly may deny them the opportunity of producing their successors or winning senatorial tickets after their tenure. The battle seems to be shifting to the presidency as the governors are bent on lobbying President Buhari not to assent to the Electoral Act amendment. Let's take a listen.
Players in politics did not want it to work. I was a product of direct primaries in 1991 when I contested for governor of Kano State. We went through direct primaries. Well, virtually, I have 484 wards in Kano, and there was 484 elections taking place that same day in various locations. So unless you are a popular candidate, you cannot be able to get the benefit of that, direct primaries. So I was a benefit. And then when I won the primaries, most of the people, or almost all the people that voted me to become a candidate, now became our campaign officers or directors, because they wanted to protect their mandate. They have voted me out and they voted me in, so they want to also campaign to make sure that I come back or I win as a governor, and I became one.
Whether it is direct or indirect or by consensus, I don't know any governor who is a governor elected in a particular state who would be afraid of the mode of primaries. Elections are going to be here soon, and we will see how those who are promoting direct, how much of a benefit that would be to them on the ground when they get there. What should matter is to what extent you are serving the people who elected you to office. Is not to appropriate your position within the political space to influence particular laws in a particular direction. Laws are not made for individuals. They ought to be made for timeless purposes. But whatever has been done, we'll see how far it carries us.
Very interesting. Governor Kaide Fayemi there. And we earlier had the chairman of the Senate Committee on INEC, Senator Kabiru Gaya, who is also a former governor, but now on the other side. Well, joining me to analyze the issues, I have Ahmad Sajo, who is a former commissioner for information in Adamawa State, and we are also joined by Salihu Lukman, who is the Director General of the Progressive Governors Forum. Gentlemen, thank you and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Let me start with you, Sajo. I saw you laughing when I actually mentioned that here is Kabiru Gaya, a former governor, but now on the other side. And here we have a current serving governor, all opposing this. What's been your view about this issue? Should the National Assembly be legislating this issue of direct or indirect primaries, or just leave it open as it had previously been?
You see, I think very honestly, we're becoming too emotive over issues. Everything is subjected to emotions rather than to reason. And that is why we're getting everything wrong. A lot of people have created the impression that direct primaries by political parties will deepen democracy, will open up the space for party members to take decisions as to who becomes candidate and the rest. We are not soothsayers. We are not prophets, even though most prophets who announce who will win elections in Nigeria have turned out to be wrong. But we can only walk within the realm of analysis of what is on ground. Of recent, we have 3 direct primary modes to analyze in determining whether direct primaries are good or they are not good. The 2018 primaries that produced the governor of Lagos, the 2018 primaries that produced President Muhammadu Buhari's candidature for 2019, and the recent 2021 primaries that produced Andy Uba as the candidate of APC in Anambra State. Let us analyze these 3 dispassionately. Keep the emotions aside. The votes that were cast at the primaries that produced Sanwo-Olu were like 2 or 3 times the vote that, the votes that were cast during the real election. And our understanding is that party primaries concern only party members. So whatever votes you get during party primaries, you're supposed to get a higher vote at the national election.
Definitely.
But in the case of Lagos, it did not happen. The votes that were cast during the election were far less than what was cast with primaries that involved only APC. We had the same scenario during the Buhari 2019 election. The primaries that produced Buhari had a very large figure. But when it came to the general election, combined APC, PDP, and all the other parties were not up to that number.
Very interesting.
Now, in the case of Anambra, the total vote cast were in the region of 304,000. But at the end of the day, the total votes cast in Anambra election, both APC, PDP, ABGA, and the other parties, what less than slightly above 200,000 votes. Meaning the man who got like over 200,000 during the nomination process ended up getting less than 50,000 at the general election. So if we analyze it from this perspective, I think there is something wrong with the manner we're conducting the direct primaries.
Okay,
but we're not looking at it. No, I'm coming.
Okay.
You see, we are surrendering our democracy almost 100% to the judiciary to decide. Now, the direct primary of a thing is another window for us to empower the judiciary to determine a lot of things for us. Almost all the parties do not have a membership register made up of members who pay dues.
Well, which is one of the biggest challenges.
Which is the biggest challenges
that the National Assembly should have considered, but they said that it's a work in progress.
Okay. But if we do not address the issue of membership register, authentic membership register that can determine the number of people, if we do not issue membership cards that are akin to the voter's card that can be used for accreditation at the direct primary, there will be a lot of challenges.
Let's bring in Salihu Lukman here, who has been on a warpath with the governors. The Progressive Governors Forum are still up in arms, and the lobby is now for President Buhari not to assent to this. Can you just take us through the grievances that you actually have, because you have accused these federal lawmakers of being beneficiaries of the same system that they now want to set aside?
Okay, thank you very much. But let's first get it right. I don't think we are on a warpath. We are not on a warpath. I think the debate is more about trying to get things right. I don't think governors are saying they don't want direct primaries. That is not my understanding. But that, and I think Governor Kayode Fayemi captured it right. You don't make law for individuals. That you have problem with your governor, for instance, does not mean you should now use your opportunity as a lawmaker to create law that will serve you. But let's take a step back a bit. Now, if you are going to have direct primary, and that is the most important thing that we must get it right. What does direct primary really require? Is it just a pronouncement in a law, or there are some other details that the law must capture, which anybody doing direct primary must follow? And that is why in the same write-up that you are referring to, I tried to refer to Part 3 of the Electoral Act, which laid out the details in terms of how INEC should manage voters' register. If you are creating a law that specifies parties must do direct primaries, you must also, within that law, indicate how parties will organize their membership register in a way that when somebody during voting, during direct primary, there will be no debate about who is a member of the party and who is not a member of the party, as it is now.
I just want to interject. I just want to interject, Salihu Lukman. In 2014, the APC has started a registration of all its members, and we were told that it was digitalized. And I remember the DSS raiding that facility at a point in time. So are you saying that since 2014, that the APC has not been able to build a credible and reliable, register of its political party members from which it can now take off after this law?
I hope you will listen to me very well. These are the issues. In 2014, we started digitalizing our membership register, and there was a whole data center open in Ikeja where we were storing data. DSS on November 22nd, 2014, DSS attacked that center and vandalized the equipment on the allegation that they were acting based on petition written to them that APC was going to use the data center to clone PVCs, permanent voters register. Now, since that has happened, the whole question of repairing, restoring that data has not been sorted out. If you remember in 2019, just before, I think it's even 2020 February, around February, March, just before the NEC dissolved the leadership of Comrade Adams Oshumole, the NWC advertised calling for bidders, service providers to bid to assist the party to organize its membership data. And that is why we don't hide the fact that we have problem with our membership data. That was why immediately after the dissolution, the debate internally in APC that, look, we must do another fresh registration, which we have done and concluded. It's still on, it has been concluded. My point is that finishing the registration is not enough. It must migrate to the level whereby you can have identification cards for every member of the party with clear security features so that nobody can go and produce something like that, because we are talking of election that will throw people into power. So it's an issue which you don't do it haphazardly.
Okay.
It must be organized.
Now, as we try to understand the issues that you're looking at, what do you want the National Assembly to do at the moment, since this law is being transmitted to the president?
If you take time to read that piece which I gave out, I appeal to the Senate President and the Speaker of the House of Reps and the leadership of the National Assembly. The issue related to Section 87, which is the proposal dealing with direct primary. They need to take it out and go and rework it and put in all the detail and let it go through the normal legislative process. Because the way it is inserted, it is not among the items that were considered during public hearing when the bill was being debated at the public hearing. It was at the point of clause by clause consideration in the House of Reps that the Speaker of the House of Reps moved a motion to include direct primary into it. And in the case of the Senate, it was just October last month, it was October 12th, that the Senate leader moved a motion for recommittal to bring back the bill, and then it was inserted. The original one the Senate has passed was provided all the options.
Okay.
Now, if you that's why I said,
So I want Sergio here to actually react to that. So from what you are saying, it was actually smuggled in at the dying minute, especially during the issue of calls for electronic transmission of results and all of that. What's your reaction to that?
I don't think it was smuggled in. It's a legislative exercise. It's a legislative process. The legislature has the prerogative to do what they think is right. But we feel that in as much as we are all interested in deepening democracy, we are all interested in moving the decision-making process back to the membership of the party. It's all very novel. It's all very, very, very desirous. But we must be very careful about the pitfalls. He said it was not debated. It was not raised during the public hearing. Perhaps some of these issues he's talking about would have come out How do you determine a member of the party such that we will have no contest as to how many people? We can't be registering 1 million people in a state and then getting 200,000 votes.
I think that's what a lot of Nigerians have been saying.
It doesn't make much sense. But I also want to say that one other very, very vital and important aspect of the legislation is taking into cognizance the position of political parties as voluntary associations. No matter how you look at it, political parties are not parastatals of government. So there's a limit to how much you can legislate for the internal affairs of voluntary associations. Okay. I am sure that quite a number of people have indicated interest to go to court and test this occurrence.
Because if it's assented by President Buhari.
If it's assented, there's a lot of people, including the PDP, wants to go to court to say, look, we need an interpretation. Can the National Assembly legislate for our affairs as people who are voluntarily gathered to... Granted that political parties are one of the key guardrails of the democratic practice, but it does not make them actually anything other than a voluntary association of people of like minds who are desirous of pushing a particular agenda.
Okay, and very quickly, I need to ask Saliu this before we round off this conversation because we're getting close to there. Well, we've had Kabiru Gaya right here in our studios, and he told us that President Buhari is really interested in this issue of direct primaries, and it looks, or it seems to be his idea and baby, and he's always canvassed for this. What would be your view if the president goes ahead to sign it, because he's actually in tune with this, because it will free the party from the grip of governors?
Look, I think you have to get it right. I mean, in principle, nobody is opposed to direct primary. That is the point I keep making. We want to get it right. As a person, my personal opinion, if you read my writing, I'm for direct primary. But if we are going to do it, we must do it in a way that really empower the members of the party to exercise their franchise. It's not a question, and that is why I said the law as it is being proposed is very ambiguous. Once you cannot determine who is a member of a party, and then you can determine who is a member of a party, but once the means of identification, which will be the source of accreditation for voting, is not really firmly established by the law, you create loose ends. And Sergio has made reference to cases, Anambra, the candidate who in March won 230,000 votes by direct primary. In the election, he got only 40-something thousand votes. Now, it makes us look jokers. And that is the issue. We are talking of power play. You don't, if the law is going to be set out, it must be firmly so stated. But like Sergio has stated, I mean, it amounts to for National Assembly to be making the law in terms of how parties organize their internal affairs, it means macromanagement. I have referred to it in my, it's also an issue which, for me, I can say I'm not a lawyer and I am not a fan of the law. I try as much as possible to live within the law, but I can tell you that my elementary knowledge of the law tells me that such a law will go contrary to provisions of even the Constitution in terms of...
Okay, very quickly, before I let you go, because we've got just a couple of minutes. Your candidate in the Anambra State governorship election, Andy Uba, says he's going to court. What's your view about that? Do you think that having come third, that he has all the facts to be able to approach the court and get justice in his own words, after saying that the election was fraud by allegations of rigging?
Look, my position is that he is the candidate. You know what went at play. If you think he has evidence, I think he has every right to go to court. And I do hope the process of consultation internally within the party will be sorted out before such a decision is made. Because look, for this democracy to be strengthened, we really, really need to also take responsibility. If election is conducted and somebody has emerged the winner and there are evidence to show that he's truly the winner, I think we should accept it. That will be my view. But if he has evidences to question it in court, so be it.
All right, Saliu Lukman, Director General of the Progressive Governors Forum. Thank you so much for your views there. And just quickly before we go on a short break, what's your view on Andy Uba deciding to go to court to challenge the outcome of that result?
Well, he has a right to go to court if he has sufficient evidence. Don't forget, the courts of law will consider whether there was a substantial compliance with the provisions of the Electoral Act. But I think, you know, a very serious issue raised by my brother, the DG Progressive Governors Forum, that for our democracy to truly mature, we must begin to also accept that accept outcomes, whether they favor us or they don't favor us. And I think that's the only way the democracy itself can mature.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I'm Sajo, who's still here with us, but it's time for us to go on a short break, and we must thank Saliu Lukman, Director General of the Progressive Governors Forum, for having joined us. We just have to leave you at this point in time. When we come back, we'll be talking about the journalist who went missing for close to a month, and then eventually he was found dead. And we have the NUJ officials and Sajo here to help us go through all of this. Stay with us. Close to a month after he was declared missing, the police has discovered the dead remains of Tordue Salem, the missing Vanguard newspaper journalist in the nation's capital, Abuja. In a traumatic narration, the police narrated how a hit-and-run driver killed the late Tordue on the night of 13th October 2021. The police also presented an arrested driver who confessed to have knocked down the journalist on the said night. The driver, Itoro Clement, also narrated what happened. But in a swift reaction, the Nigerian Union of Journalists has rejected the police claim. NUJ says the story did not add up. According to the Journalists Union, both the narration of the police spokesperson, Frank Mba, and evidence presented by the alleged driver left too many loopholes. NUJ is now asking for a thorough investigation into the death of Tordue Salem. And the question now is, who killed Tordue Salem and why was he killed? Well, joining me in the studio is Emmanuel Ogbeche, Chairman, Nigeria Union of Journalists, FCT Council, and Ochiaka Ugu, Secretary of the Nigeria Union of Journalists, FCT Council, and of course I still have with me here Ahmed Sajo, who is a former commissioner in Adamawa State. But I just want us to take a listen to what Frank Mba, a commissioner of police and spokesperson of the police, said during the parading of that suspect.
When following some digital leads, some forensic leads, his old phone or his phone, an iPhone 6, have already been smashed into pieces, was trailed and found in a garage somewhere in Mpape called Good Friends Garage. It was discovered that a test call was made from his SIM card.
On my way coming, I was on 100 speed. I was coming. After the Mabuchi Bridge, going to Same Market, where those forest is, someone was crossing. The first person crossed. The second one ran into me. The person ran into me, knocked out the person. I moved on. So I turned around to that where they have checking points to plan report that I knocked someone down. Getting there, I just stand there and talk to the police. Then I left to go and park my vehicle because my vehicle was damaged.
Well, gripping accounts of what is alleged to have happened on the late Tordue Salem, which has provoked lots of protests, lots of anger, and debate across the country on the safety of journalists and how the nation can help protect further journalists in the discharge of their duties. And let me come to you, Emmanuel Ogbeche. It's such a sad moment over the killing of Tordue Salem. There's now a call for a forensic investigation into this matter. Tell us why the NUJ is insisting that there are loopholes in both the account of the police and the suspect presented.
Well, thank you for this opportunity once again. If you remember events leading to yesterday being the 12th, when the police paraded one Itoro Clement as being responsible, you know, for the death of our dear colleague, Tordue Salem. You will recall that on exactly a week after he was allegedly declared missing, we staged a march to the police headquarters to demand that constructive and measured investigation be conducted. And we also requested, as at that time, that the FCT command was not equipped to undertake such investigation. It should be transferred to the Office of the Inspector General of Police. This is not undermining the efforts of the FCT Police Command. What we wanted was that for a matter of such magnitude, the Inspector General of Police should oversee the operations through the Office of the Deputy Inspector General of Police in charge of investigation and operations. And at that time, we were met by the first public relations officer, Mr. Frank Umba, who gave us an update of what the police were doing. And one of what he told us as at that time was that 6 individuals have been interrogated and that the police were on the trail of whoever was holding Tordue Salem. You know, he gave us a rundown of how they have tracked Tordue Salem's phone records from when he took Uber from Life Camp to National Assembly to Area 8 and eventually when he disappeared. So it is rather regrettable that the same police that gave us the impression that they were already on track as to where his phone was and what they were doing, and they had interrogated the last calls he made to 6 individuals, and to now, after a month, bring up this individual to claim that he hit Tordue Salem. And you know why we are worried? If you listen to the account of the driver, he said he drove to a checkpoint and said
and reported to the police that he actually hit someone.
The police will not let you go.
Yes.
So it is surprising that after making such a weighty confession, I just hit somebody from where I'm coming from, and the person is lying in his pool of blood, and the police will allow him drive off.
Go. Well, let me just bring in Ochaka Ugu here. And Ochaka, one of the things that have made us to actually question these surrounding issues as presented by the police is for the fact that as at the last time the police spoke with you during that protest by the NUJ to the force headquarters, they told you that the last place he was tracked was at Area 8 within the Garki district of Abuja. And now when the police was now parading this suspect, they now said that he was actually hit by this driver somewhere along Wuse Market and Mabushi district, within Wuse and Mabushi districts of Abuja. Are you questioning why there had to be that difference between the last statement made by the police, that the last place they got in touch with him was at Area 8, and then now a fresh account is coming that he was actually hit by this driver in Wuse?
Okay, thank you very much for this opportunity, sir. I will start by saying that the briefing by the police has raised more questions than answers. It is unfortunate that we are wobbling with this issue, because this man was a thoroughbred journalist, a fine gentleman. The police told us that day that the Area 8 was his last point of contact, and they even promised us that they are going to engage us on confidential briefing, which never came. But I was surprised when one Mr. Toro came and claimed that Tordue was he hit Tordue was his car ran into his car at Mabuchi. And I want to ask, we know how the police operate in this part of the world. Somebody went to a police checkpoint and confessed to have hit somebody down, and police just allow him to go like that. And another person now took that person to mortuary, and not even that person's contact was even collected from the mortuary. I've had cause to have taken bodies to mortuary, maybe my town union people. And if you go there, the first off, they will collect your number, collect everything about you. Sometimes they even ask you for your ID card, and you have to deposit maybe a certain amount of money for them to start what they're doing. So what I want to say is that, and that is everything is just, I can say, it's not adding up. And that is why NUJ, in their own wisdom, now asked that there should be an independent probe and an autopsy conducted to ascertain the cause of death and the time Tordue Salem died.
Right, and I'll come to you, Sergio. You've heard these accounts and the role of the police. The suspect has confessed to this, but there are still so many loopholes. A lot of journalists are dissatisfied. A lot of Nigerians say that something has gone wrong on the safety of this journalist who has eventually been found dead.
Thank you very much. I think I feel the pain. I applied the journalism trade on the streets of Abuja here, where and I had no vehicle, so I could understand why, you know, walking from one end to the other in trying to discharge your responsibilities. And incidentally, you know, this is what most of our colleagues suffer. The job is essentially a thankless job. We do one of the most essential jobs in the world. You know, informing others is a very, very crucial job. There are sometimes I rate it higher than even medicine and other professions, because if anybody has any information, it's a preventive thing. And so, you know, we do this, but we suffer, you know, countless risks and hazards. But in this case, I believe that the story from the police, to a large extent, is not. It does not even. It's not even it.
Yeah, because the police is telling us right now, as Nigerians, that they found his ID card on him, his bank
from my experience,
and all of that.
Let me give you my experience.
Okay, go ahead.
From my experience as a public official, you know, I do understand that when there is an accident victim, whether he is late or he is in difficulty, even if you carry that accident victim to the hospital, the first thing they will ask you is that they may stabilize him to save life, but they would demand for the presence of police to take further action. If it is a corpse, nobody will accept a corpse from you for an accident victim without the involvement of the police. And one of the reasons why the police is involved is so that the police can follow up on what must have happened that led to this. And nobody in his right senses will say it will take the police 1 month to follow up.
Yeah, and I mean, those are the things that we're all trying to find
our
out.
colleague was said to have been with his ID card, which was very easy. And nobody would have even declared him missing, because anybody who has a means of identification is not a missing person. It's somebody you can trace. He has a phone. That phone has a SIM that is registered, and the registration of that SIM gives some modicum of details of the individual. So identifying him and tracing him or tracing whoever is related to him is not going to be a very difficult task. And I am finding the supposed suspect, you know, the casual manner with which he said he walked up to a policeman at a checkpoint and said, "I have knocked somebody," and then I went to park my car. It really speaks volumes of even our lack of humanity as a people.
Very interesting submission you've got there. We'll interrogate that further when we come back from this short break, which will just have to go on. Stay with us. Welcome back from that break, and we're still discussing the brutal killing of Tordue Salem, a journalist with the Vanguard newspapers here in the Nigerian capital, Abuja, who has now been confirmed seen, but this time around dead and with his body deposited in the morgue, and there are lots of issues that are coming up. And I have with me here the chairman of the Nigeria Union of Journalists, FCT Council, Emmanuel Ogbeche, and Ochiaka Ugo, who is the secretary of the Nigeria Union of Journalists, FCT Council, and of course, Ahmad Sajo, who is a former commissioner for information at Adamawa State. And I come back to you, Emmanuel Ogbeche. The process of depositing a body in the morgue is well known to a lot of Nigerians. And you raised, Ochiaka raised that issue, while you raised the fact that this same suspect presented by the police reported the incident that allegedly happened to the police, and he was let go freely without being detained or details being taken from him until after a month. And we're wondering, does the NUJ know who took the dead body to the morgue at this point in time?
Well, as we speak, a lot of issues are shrouded in secrecy. We have been unable to know exactly who deposited his corpse, Tordue's corpse, at the morgue. From police sources, they claim that it was the Abuja Environmental Protection Board that came to evacuate the corpse. But even if that were to be the case, he had some sort of clothing on, and no corpse is put into the refrigerator with the clothes on. Usually you ransack the pocket if he has a bag for means of identity, but none of this was done until
for
after
a whole month.
You understand? So it raises the suspicion that Tordue Salem was not actually the individual that was hit by the suspect, Itoru Clement.
And there was this video that we saw, actually.
Yes,
someone who was trying to help with this investigation put it out on social media and tagged you and actually stating, and we saw that gory picture actually. A lot of people have said it's not the body of Tordue Salem. Some have said that even if it's the body of Tordue Salem, the cut on his head looks like a machete cut, and his leg, one of his legs was literally hanging on the body, and of course, all of that. In all of this that we have seen, is the NUJ suspecting an assassination plot against the late Tordue?
Yeah, we're not ruling anything out, and it is for this reason we have requested an independent inquiry, and it is for this reason we are demanding an autopsy be conducted to determine the cause of death and the time of death. You understand? All of this will help to resolve the riddle behind Tordue's death. We do not wish to speculate as to what exactly happened and if at all he was murdered. There is a scientific way to determine all of this, and that is the least we are asking of the government to do. For too long, journalists have been killed in this country without effort being made to find those behind these killings. Okay. Remember Godwin Agboroko died in Maiduguri, and up till this day as we speak, nothing has been done to unravel that mystery. Bayo Ohu was killed. Nothing was done. For how long are we going to run in circles, right from when Delegiwa was killed in this country, and answers are yet to be provided for by the government?
And I come to you, Ochiaka Ugo. You are the secretary of the council where Tordue belonged. What sort of journalist was he, and what's the mood like among members of the Nigerian Union of Journalists in the nation's capital? What events are you thinking of doing since now that you've been told that the body has been recovered?
I will like to say that Tordue Harry Salem was a thoroughbred journalist, a fine gentleman, who is a friend to everybody. But it is unfortunate that this fate befell him. And I will tell you that he's also a good family man. But it's unfortunate that the media space is now shrinking. the media has been, the freedom of media has been repressive over time. I will tell you that from 2015 to now, 7 journalists have been killed without any of this murder being resolved. Tordue is now making it the 8th journalist to be killed since 2015. And about 500 violations involving like 300 journalists and many more. Some mediums have also been maybe shut down for maybe somebody coming to say something that maybe to air his view. So to me, I will tell you honestly that most journalists are now living in anxiety, fearing that what befell Tordue Salem may befall them. And that is why NUJ, in their own wisdom, now asks for this autopsy so that we will now know what really happened to Tordue. And also, we are also appealing to government and also political office holders to make sure that they prioritize the safety of journalists. Because in every democracy, freedom of speech is the first feature in any democracy.
Right. And I come to you, Sergio. Do you think that the intent of the killers of these journalists was actually to drive fear? Because here he is, a journalist covering politics and covering the National Assembly for so many years. He's written lots of articles, highly opinionated. And in this instance, you have also been in government. If, for example, there's a call for an autopsy, a forensic investigation, what's the process like? Although we are in the nation's capital, not in a state.
No, but it's all the same. Government is government. I think there is no question about the fact that there is a need, a big need for a thorough investigation, which should include proper identification of the body. You know, not we shouldn't be arguing as to whether the body is his or is not his, and then the real cause of death must be ascertained. If somebody said, I knocked him down, and then another person says, no, we feel that the body we are seeing does not look like one that was knocked down by a vehicle, and even if it was knocked down by a vehicle, the person who knocked him down should not have been so heartless as not to even stop to assist a bleeding person, but rather to go and
well, his defense, according to the suspect, is that that place is prone to criminality. So he was trying to save his own life after having hit this person.
But by the time he went to the police, let's tell ourselves the truth. By the time he went to the police would have, with their protective capacity, returned back to the scene with him. This is what we're saying, and we wouldn't have reached this point. And in any case, assuming that has happened, we still want a scientific means of ascertaining that is what really happened. If a proper autopsy is carried out and there is a way the medical professionals would have ascertained that he died as a result of wounds sustained during the hit and run situation, we would still have been very sad.
Okay, very quickly, because I've been told that we don't have enough time. I just want to ask, do you think that our institutions are failing us? In this time around, we have the police being mentioned there, the hospitals, and of course, even
the Abuja environmental.
Environmental. Do you think all these institutions are failed us as Nigerians?
All of these institutions have not acted professionally in this case. All of these institutions.
Okay. Thanks so much. I'm Sergio, who is a former commissioner for information in Adamawa State, joining us to take a critical analysis of some of the top issues that happened during the week. And of course, Emma Nologbeche of the Nigerian Union of Journalists and Ochiaka Ogu, we must thank you for joining us on This Week. Well, that's how it's been for this edition of This Week. From me and the entire team here in Abuja, goodbye and thank you for watching. I'm Somna Sambu.